Okay, so how many of you have kids out there? When you start feeding infants, you feed them one food at a time. You give them usually at least a week on that food to make sure that they don't have an allergy to it before you introduce the next new food. It's recommended the way that we're trained as new parents is that we do not introduce all these foods all at once because then if the child has an infant has an allergy to it, we don't know what the food is that they've developed the allergy to, and it's a lot harder to go back eliminating foods one at a time. As adults, however, we've been exposed to just about everything, so sometimes our bodies have an amazing, incredible ability to be able to adapt. And the example that I like to use, since we started with the infants, we might as well go to the pregnancy, right? Is when I was pregnant, especially with my first son, but all of my children, so many people talk. That was the best I ever felt when I was pregnant. That really wasn't me, and I didn't really realize, how unwell I felt during the pregnancy until after I had my child. And I remember when I was in labor with my first son, I remember screaming at the doctor, telling him I was having a heart attack. And he's telling me to push, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm having a heart attack. And so he's like, well, we could get an EKG after this is over, but right now we got to deliver this baby. Anyways, as soon as I had delivered him, I just felt so much better. And I was like, I feel so much better. And he's like, do you want that EKG? And I was like, no, I'm good. I feel so much better. With my middle son, I was deaf out of one ear for 3/4 of the pregnancy. Couldn't hear at all whatsoever. If I picked up the phone on that ear, I had no idea that there was anybody on the phone talking. And as soon as I delivered him, suddenly, miraculously, my hearing came back. Our bodies have just an incredible ability to be able to compensate, though, because during the pregnancies, I never really realized quite how unwell I felt. It's always just coping and getting through, and coping and getting through, and coping and getting through. And then all of a sudden, as soon as I had the baby, I felt better, and I was like, wow, I can't believe how good I feel. So sometimes when we have allergies to foods, we don't necessarily realize that we have the allergies because it's not that, oh, we've broken out in hives or that we have this really, incredible or terrible symptom that's facing us and that we've just compensated for that as we've gone along. And so that compensation, we've just adjusted, and this is what we now accept and realize is our way of life. So my challenge to you is to eliminate foods that tend to be triggers for allergies. So dairy is one of them, and again, this is a food that very often we just compensate for. We don't really know that there's an adverse effect to our body until we eliminate it from our body. So the what I'm challenging you to do is to let go of dairy for an entire month. Start with a week, but let go of it for an entire month. And each food that you do this with, so dairy, do it with wheat, do it with your sugar. Absolutely, sugar. Even if you feel the same with or without it, you shouldn't have it because it's not really that good for you. And we've already talked about it, but go for your natural sweetener. So local maple syrup, local honey are your best two alternatives. So just think about, the different things to be able to determine what it is that your body, does well with or doesn't do well with it. After you get rid of it for a month, then when you start eating it, you will know right away if there's a difference. Because once you've cleansed your body of that food, then when you introduce it into your system again, your system is either going to accept it or it's going to reject it. And if it rejects it, then you're going to know. It's not necessarily going to be something digestive, though. It could be joint pain, it could be allergies, it could be headaches, it could be a lack of energy. So just be aware of any symptoms that you have once you have reintroduced that. Again, I been recommending throughout this whole course that we keep a journal, and the journal isn't necessarily for writing down every ounce of food that you eat, but more for how you're feeling as you start testing different things. And that is my big goal for you, is to test the different things so that you see how is it affecting you, and is that really making a difference, or is it not making a difference as you're making these changes. If you don't make the changes, you're never going to know whether there's a positive result at the other end. And part of the reason that you're taking this course is because you're looking for different results. And if you want different results, you've got to try something different. Remember, Albert Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So we have to do something different if we want different results. And what my goal is to simply give you the opportunity